Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Alan with another broadcast of the Morlog Morning Digest. And as always, I ask that you guys please like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, but most importantly, please share the content to help the channel grow. Now, as a lot of you guys know, if you watched my last video, I just recently purchased a PC, and I want to give you guys full transparency. When we ended up getting these stimulus checks, a few months ago, I was fortunate enough where one of my subscribers was kind enough to donate their entire stimulus check to me. And that afforded me the ability to get my feet under me and put enough savings in the bank to not have to worry about anything. And once I had that cushion, I decided to take that money and reinvest it back into this channel as I promised to. And that being said, I invested $900 into a computer setup for my home so I can start bringing you guys interviews, call-in shows, regular live streams, better, more interactive content, okay? Now, the only piece of equipment that I need to buy is a webcam. And this is where you guys come in. I don't want to feel like I'm begging, but this is what needs to happen if you want to become a successful YouTuber, right? I wouldn't be here without you guys, and I thank you for it. And by no means am I expecting anybody that can't donate to donate. If you can't afford it, keep your money. I don't want it, okay? But if you can, and you want to see this channel succeed, I would greatly appreciate it, okay? I have a couple options for donations in the description below via PayPal, as well as my Cash App, and I also have a link to my BitChute channel. Once I get done with work today, I'm going home and getting everything squared away on my BitChute channel so it starts receiving uploads, alright? Because, let's be honest, we don't know how much longer YouTube is going to keep me around. And I appreciate you guys listening to that. And we're going to get into our topic for today's video. And I want to make one thing very clear. The video that I made the other day, we need to get one thing straight. The probability of Donald Trump retaining his presidency based on the rulings that just happened yesterday and the Supreme Court allowing ballots to be counted until the 6th in Pennsylvania, etc., etc., etc. The cards are stacked against him. So this video is in preparation for what you guys need to be prepared for if Joe Biden becomes your president, and in turn if Harris becomes your president. Because there's something we need to get very clear. Our lives are going to change, and they're going to change drastically. Now, the first thing you need to be prepared for is the fact that there is a planned 4-week to 6-week lockdown that Joe Biden has already stated he is going to enact. Now, let's just hope that the Supreme Court rules that he has no jurisdiction to do that because it's states' rights. But even then, the Democratic states are going to follow Joe Biden's lead. So your state may very well lock down even though the Supreme Court says it's unconstitutional. God bless you if you're smart enough to be living in a very, very red state right now. It's probably the smartest move you ever made. But what do you do in the meantime to prepare for that? Because we know that it's coming now that I've told you, right? Now that he's admitted it, we know we need to prepare. What happened last time everything went into lockdown? Chaos ensued. People were fighting over toilet paper. It might not be fresh in your minds, but do you remember the panic in your mind when you walked into the grocery store just a few months ago and saw zero food on the shelves? It was a shock to my system. I know it was a shock to yours. As Americans, it's something that we never really experienced before outside of a natural disaster, all right? And even then, it was short term. Well, prepare now. Get yourself at least 8 weeks of dry food, all right? Food that you don't need refrigeration in order to rely on. You can buy perishable food, right? But make sure it's stuff that you can consume, stuff you're going to eat, right? And stuff that has a long shelf life in the refrigerator. And then, just as a backup, make sure you have enough dry goods to last yourself if the power does go out. Self-protection. If you have a firearm, make sure you have ammunition. A lot of things people forget is they're like, okay, I have a firearm. I'm good to go. I can protect myself. Well, A firearm is kind of like a campfire. Now hear me out. Just because you have a campfire and you're warm, you have a false sense of security. You think you're going to be warm all night. Well, what happens when you run out of firewood? You find yourselves in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night, freezing cold, trying to gather firewood with no light, and it's a bitch, right? And then your campfire goes out, and you're right back to square one. Your campfire's useless because you let it go out. The same rule applies to a firearm, and most people forget this. A firearm is useless if you don't have enough ammunition to protect yourself. And like firewood, you always need more ammunition than you think you do. Okay? Get that through your mind as well. Also, with everything coming up with the Electoral College and the certification of the of the Electoral College, right? I ask that you guys try to avoid traveling in the middle of December. Let's be very clear. Either way, there are going to be a lot of very unhappy people. Okay? And let's be honest. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of Antifa that aren't very happy that Joe Biden's president, because they are just as angry with that faction as the right is right now because of what they did to Bernie Sanders and what they've done to the AOC crowd, etc., etc. Joe Biden is in between a rock and a hard place because he hasn't catered to the extreme left yet. He's pushed back on them, and AOC is going for his jugular. While at the same time, the Republicans who are being forced to deal with this massive voter fraud and hypocrisy with the fact they're not even allowing us to investigate all of this evidence that we have. Joe Biden may very well be impeached and replaced within the first couple months of office, and I wouldn't put it past the Democrats for having this be part of their game plan all along. That way Harris doesn't have to deal with Joe Biden resigning, right? That would look bad for her. It would look worse for her to become president via Joe Biden resigning in their eyes than her assuming the post because of an impeachment process. That's what I'm thinking in my mind, okay? Now, if you live in a residential area, all right, I suggest you find out now which neighbors you can depend on, all right? This isn't like it was 30, 40 years ago, even 20 years ago, where I knew my neighbors. I hung out with my neighbors all the time. Nowadays, people ignore their neighbors. You live less than 3 feet away from somebody, a lot of us in apartment buildings, right? And we don't even know our next door neighbors' names anymore. I suggest you change that, and you change that now. Because let's be fair and honest with ourselves. If things reach a crisis level, this isn't going to be like any traditional culture war. This isn't going to be like any traditional civil war. Your neighbor may very well become your enemy, and you need to know if they are going to be your enemy or your ally before the counting heads phase begins. And the counting heads phase is almost over. So this step is a little bit too late, but better late than never. Also, I highly suggest if you live in an area where you can bug out, you go out and you scout an area that you can bug out to now and have an organized plan to get to that destination. I also suggest that you form a group with a small group of friends, no more than 4 or 5 people, simply due to the fact that numbers are your friend, but too many numbers equal too many talking heads, and there's only ever room for one leader. I suggest you establish that hierarchy before shit goes to shit, so you know who's in charge, and that's that. You live and die by those decisions, but you live and die by those decisions by a group, because if you start individually thinking, shit goes wrong quick. It is better to have a plan, even a bad plan, and stick to it than have absolutely no plan at all. Art of War 101. These are things that you have to start thinking about now. I also suggest that you have a bug out bag. Something with 1 or 2 days of food, a means to build yourself a primitive shelter and stay warm, and a means to get yourself more resources when you are out, whether it is trapping, snaring, primitive hunting, etc. And these aren't tools that all of us have at our disposal because they take years to acquire. But if you're fortunate enough to have done it, then utilize it and be prepared to go out there and do it. Like, this includes just having a bag with a fishing pole, okay? A basic fucking sleeping bag, paracord. Like, use your brain. You don't need a crap ton of money to be efficient at being able to survive. People have been doing it for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. I also suggest that you stop watching the mainstream media and you save your money. Not necessarily your paper assets, but start maybe converting some of your paper assets into hard assets that'll be worth something if the paper economy decides to go to shit, i.e. silver and gold, copper. There's a lot of stuff that people will find of value that will be instantaneously valuable the day after an economic crisis occurs, i.e. having seeds to start a farm. Hell, you might find yourself unemployed anyway. You can feed a family of 4 on an acre of property. Yeah, it's gonna take work, but life ain't fucking easy, and we've had it easy until now. Alright? Also, do not, by any means, right, bow into the fact that they are going to want to give us vaccines. Part of this 4-week lockdown is going to be the unrolling, right? They're going to roll out a new vaccine, and this vaccine is going to be mandatory for you to go back to work. I guarantee it. I haven't been wrong about a lot, guys, okay? And I know I said the other day that anybody that tells you they don't know what's going to happen is full of shit. This is my best guess. Everything I've said up until now, I'm damn sure is going to happen. 100%. I bet my life on it. Now, I don't know 100% if they do roll out a vaccine during this lockdown. But if they do, resist, resist, resist. It is better to live on your own 2 feet than serve on your knees, and you either fight for something in this life or you fall for anything and die for nothing. Okay? Once again, I ask that you guys please, if you can afford it, help me out. If not, I understand completely, and I appreciate you just being here and being part of this community, because it gives me the sanity I need. It gives me the outlet I need. God bless you and your family. Take care of them. At the end of the day, they are all you have.